Hello and welcome to our special edition of Loaded Balls, and I'm delighted to be joined by Shane Mulholland, Mark Fitz, Mark Doran and Marty Walker for our finals preview. Boys, it's been a short, sweet season, and delighted that you could all come on board and give us your thoughts and views on this upcoming week. I think the junior one's on Friday night, Marty, would it be right? That's
right, yeah, 7:30 on Friday night.
Intermediates on Sunday at 3 o'clock, and then the senior one is scheduled for 7 o'clock, I do believe, on the Sunday as well. Shane, I suppose to start with yourself, you know what, a disappointing result for you, I'm sure, but I must commend you on your honest interview at halftime. I thought it was very refreshing, and you know, the call it as you seen it.
Well, it was what it was. I mean, we hadn't come out. We never turned up. Definitely didn't go according to plan. Wasn't the way we wanted to start the game. Wasn't where we wanted to be by the water break. Wasn't where we wanted to be at halftime. So what else do you do? And it had all the concern for me that it was going to be another wipeout after last year and the 1 point game. And thankfully they showed a bit of character. I knew if they could get the first two scores of the second half, there'd be a bit of belief would come back. And that's what happened. They got a bit of belief. They got a run. Just couldn't bloody get ahead, John. Just got back to level 2 or 3 times. Bounce of a ball, a couple of millimetres here and there. Doran was saying before you come on, I couldn't believe Ronnie Moore passed the ball in front of the square. I think John McGovern was shocked that he got a pass at that point. But
we were sitting in the stand going, Ronnie Moore in the heyday would just not a hope turn by net.
I know. But listen, you know, credit to Kaidoff. They rallied. They got a crucial goal in at the start of extra time, and then just did enough to see themselves through. But yeah, we're gutted because it would have been a fitting reward for the Owl Hands after a lifetime of playing for us, and it would have been a brilliant experience for the young boys coming through. So I don't think we'll ever have a better opportunity. If you were to say at the start of the year, you won't play Burn, Hilltown, Clonduff, Kilcoo, 1 point to get to a county final, you'd have put your hand off for it, you know. So unfortunately, you never know. We just have to keep knocking the door, and someday we'll make it through, you know.
Let's see, what did you take from the game? Like, what, you know, the introduction of Ronnie Moore obviously spurred Ballyholland on, and it was like he was throwing dummies there that were older than the man he was marking at times. Like, you know, but you know, what did you take from the game? It was a cracking game, like.
It was a brilliant game. It was very, very open. I think, you know, both teams carried up, especially really opened it up. But I think with Paul Murphy and Ronan Murray, as long as I've been watching senior football, them two boys have been about and they've been great players for the county and club, and that's gutting for them. It really is. You know, to get so close to that opportunity to represent Ballyholland in the county final, and to just fall short by the minimum. But Ballyholland, the first half was quite surprised at their performance in the first half, and that really gave carried up confidence. And the comeback was brilliant, taking it to extra time and pushed them all the way. But it was, I know it was a couple of times level, but they just couldn't get ahead and kick on. And I think credit to carried up there for holding out and getting over the line.
Mm-hmm. Dorney, carried off. You know, you some saying there's 5. I think there's 5 at one stage. Down footballers on the panel. You know, were you surprised at the start they made and how difficult they made life for Ballyholland?
Oh, well, but if you remember back in before a ball was kicked in the championship, we done a show and they were one of my dark horses. Yeah, before they end up getting beat by Clonduff. Well,
you're only in 3 sentences in and you're already claiming them.
No, well, look, the people's getting kicked 5. Yes, there was. There's actually 3 carried off players in the panel at the minute. Was before a ball was kicked, yes, I thought they would do well. After the Clonduff game, I says, there's maybe a bit to go. I think the Clonduff game, they actually learned a lot about themselves, where they were very naive against Clonduff, went at 1-on-1 at the back. They did learn a lot from defensively. Look, Jerry Duff have great players, have a lot of good underage. They're actually a lesson. I'm going to throw yourselves in this. I think Kerry Duff and Saul are a lesson. And then Shamrocks, that youth, they've really invested in youth 10 years ago, and now it's paying off. Mm-hmm. And I think they are. If a lot of clubs take it, they're looking to look at their template and say, look what can be done if you do the hard work's done at underage level. look what happens. And to be fair, look, as Shane said, it was gutting for Paul Murphy and Ronnie Morta. I felt like Shane mentioned, I couldn't believe Ronnie Morta passed the ball. I was going, but look, in my eyes, Ronnie Morta changed the game for Ballyholme just because he just went direct up, and the minute he got the ball, he went direct. But look, Kerry Duff, I think is great for down football. For just in the final, look, they're up again to Kilcoo, but as the game itself on Sunday, I thought it was brilliant. Just as a neutral, I know Ballyholme and Kerry Duff people were probably sitting going, I would just like to ask Shane something. Were Ballyholme maybe a wee bit safe, play it safe, maybe the first half?
Yeah, look, the intention was there was a scar from last year. Dorney blew out the gate after 15 minutes, and it was just get to the water break, be in the game, keep it nice and compact, and play our way in, and that didn't go according to plan. And you're right that there was a strong wind on, and it did affect us. I said at half time, Carried Off played a blinder in that they didn't line out as per what was even called out over the tannoy, because we were listening to see if there was a switch, and then they line out on the pitch and they've made a couple of changes and you're reacting. So I think for 5 or 6 minutes it just caught us a little bit on the hop trying to get our matchups right. Murph ended up marking Michael McGrath, and that was never supposed to happen, and we had to get Mark Walsh across to him and Murph back on to the big lad in the middle, and it just I think it just unsettled us a wee bit, just getting it right. And then by that point they kicked a couple of frees. We were running the blind alleys, running into contact. Our first 20 minutes was atrocious. I mean, the productivity level, John, was atrocious in the first half, and you're just hanging on for grim death, trying to make sure that you're still in the game at the half. And even like it wasn't an 8-point win, at half time, but probably a bit too safe, Dorney. But it was a scar from last year, and maybe we give Carried Off a wee bit too much respect in the first 15-20 minutes, and we're asking ourselves tonight, actually, with a bit of a WhatsApp sort of powwow, and we're sort of going, what do you think the slow start was down to? I think there has to be a little bit of it mentally from last year, even though some of them young boys never played last year. They're only coming through, So who knows? If you could do it all again, it's like, I'm sure if Clonduff could do that all again, when John Boyle came on, they would have went man to man on him, and they might have been still in the championship, So everybody will have their regrets at the end of a game, and really, it's how quickly you can react on the pitch at that moment to make some switch, to make a change, to get yourself back in the game. And I think that's where people earn their corn,
Marty, just watching the game, did the results surprise you? And, as Shane says, Ballyholme's slow start?
A big factor in the game. There's been a lot of criticism of referees this season. I have to say, I thought Kieran Brannigan was excellent. There was nobody buying free kicks out there, and I don't know what Shane thought of him himself, but you couldn't have bought a free kick, you had to earn it. And I thought he was excellent throughout the game. It made for a great spectacle the way Kieran refereed the game. Like Shane said, they asked for leaders at half time with the Murphy, Joe and Paul Murphy, and obviously Ronan Murray coming on. They got the leaders they asked for, but they still relied a lot on Seamus Loughlin getting the scores. I think 9 maybe he got, and Carried Off had 10 scores across the pitch. So maybe that reliance on Seamus was the downfall a bit at the end of it. Albeit, as Shane mentioned, the slow start probably was the killer.
Mm-hmm. And Shane, I suppose, Seamus had a blind championship from the dead ball. He was racking up scores after scores, and boys were waxing lyrical about his performances against Longstone and others. But do you think that once you have a game plan like that, and they have an off day, or they're just not at that 80 to 100%, you're setting yourself up for a fall then?
Well, look, Doran, I'm sure, was at the Longstone game. Longstone set up with a double sweeper and set themselves up as hard to break down and foul us around the periphery. And Shimmy nailed every single free kick, which meant that the game plan was, well, it doesn't matter. We don't have to get inside yet. We'll just keep picking off points from the outside. And they weren't even coming from play. He was just nailing every dead ball. And that makes the team then adjust, And all year long, he's been hitting dead ball after dead ball. don't know if the occasion got to him a wee bit. Shimmy's a very confident boy, so I don't think it was that. But he had one or two inexplicable misses. One out of his hands inside the D that he hit the post with, that you were just we were talking and couldn't believe he had missed it. You know.
Yeah.
And that's not to say Marty's right. He scored 8 points. He got 6 from frees. He got 2 from play. He's a big weapon for us, but he needs to develop more in his general play. He's done well on his frees. He needs to be more of a threat in general play, and he knows that himself. He knows he's a long way to go. But I think over the next year or two, you'll see that we do have other natural scoring forwards that we're starting to produce. John McGovern's one in particular that's going to stand out over the next few years. Ryan Connolly, who came on as a scoring forward, I think we're getting there with our forward line. It used to be Ronnie Mortar all the way. Now it feels like it's Shane Mulholland all the way. It was a big day for him. It was a big ask, a lot of responsibility on young shoulders, but he's well capable for it and he's very confident. So, like, it wasn't a case of the next free kick he'd have been hitting it and the next one he'd have been hitting it, you know, and we've a lot of confidence in him. So not trying to put any of the blame on him, but back to Marty's point, we were delighted that it was Kieran Brannigan, because Kieran lets the game go, you know, and because he lets it go, I thought it would have suited Ballyholland to get wired in, to carried off a little bit, you know, slow them down a wee bit maybe and halt those runners. But no, with no fault with Kieran. Look, before I went over to do the interview at halftime, I went out to Kieran and a wee nibble at him. Do you know, when you're 8 points down and you feel there's a couple of 50-50s and he doesn't give them your way, I had a wee moan at him, but he just dismissed me, and he was right too. It was like, he knew full well that they weren't frees, and I was just scratching around for something, you know, just to try and hope that you put it in his head that he might give you a free the other way at the start of the second half. But look, you try all them wee things, don't you? You try anything you can to get a turn out of a referee or a linesman or whatever, you know.
That's it. The carried off setup. Ronan Beattie was you know, an obvious target for him, but the set's very wide. John McGill hugging the right touchline. I think it was Michael McGrath then with on the left touchline, and they were looking for that diagonal ball into Beattie and then getting the runners off him. And you know, in the first half, it was working a treat.
Yeah, carried off got a lot of interchangeable players. You know, from their half back line up to the full forward line. The boys there that are very adaptable to different positions, but McGrath and McGill were excellent, and so much ball went through them, and a great pace going forward. But Beattie there at full forward, his movement was good. He seemed to be the focal point of that attack, and the other boys seemed to accept that. But the way they came wide, as you were talking about, John, and then, you know, they're looking up there for the target man. They had men around them, but again, possibly a bit predictable too. Always looking to hit in that number 14 spot on the edge of the square. But McGill and McGrath were two brilliant players in that game, and I thought Ballyholland did struggle to deal with them. I thought they had both boys had a strong influence in the game, especially McGill from scoring as well.
Yeah. Doran, you know, carried off defence has been, you know, come under a lot of criticism, especially against the Clonduff game. But I thought they were excellent. They hounded in packs, and you know, Ian O'Brien stood up this week for me, and you know, was a real leader at the back.
Yeah, to be fair, that like we talked about earlier on, how naive they were against Clonduff. When you think how wide open they were, and they obviously they learned serious lessons from that game. I actually thought Conor Cassidy at full back was just immense. He seemed to be everywhere, cutting balls out. I thought Gareth Henderson, number 18, Redford fella, was brilliant. I think Gareth actually played centre half back for them last year. I think like how well defensively they played. Now, in saying that, Mark Ballyholland cut them open 2 or 3 times, and Mark Haynes made brilliant saves. But I looked compared to where they were at in the Clonduff game, and you look how wide open they were against Clonduff, and even to a certain extent, like Longstone cut them open 2 or 3 times and just didn't score. I thought at the back they were a massive improvement from them compared to where they come from, and and it was fair play to them. They end up just doing enough and getting over the line.
We'll see who makes the team of the week. Marty, the next game then, the big one that was billed as, I seen a couple of people online weren't happy that it was billed as in final all but name, but you know, Kilcoo, just a different level, and they've just been ramping it up ever since that 1 point defeat in the second round.
Absolutely, they were that got the wee fright from 1 point last year when they were on them so close, and obviously earlier on the championship, the win, and I heard everybody talking that you need to beat Kilcoo at the knockout stage. No good beating them early on, and they certainly learned from that game. Looked like a completely different animal on Sunday. Now they upped it a gear. The Johnsons and the Brannigans again. Like, there's no stopping them. McMahon in goals for 1 point kept the score respectable for a long time, but it could have been a lot worse for 1 point.
Yeah, and I suppose, boys, do you think, Hollow, there was a psychological war even in that game, that 1 point of the contenders, and Kilcoo are just saying here, this is a marker for you?
I just think their game management is off the charts. Like they just every single one of them, they don't make silly mistakes. They don't give away turnovers. They keep the ball when they know they have to keep the ball. They run the clock when they have to run the clock. It's almost as if their football IQ is just way above anything else. We look back at moments in our game and there was just a straight pass at the wrong time, or a forced pass at the wrong time, or someone takes an extra solo in the contact. They don't do that. They just, I just imagine their training sessions or their coaching sessions, they're just drilled and drilled and drilled about when to do the right thing and how to do the right thing, and that's bloody hard to do. So I don't think they get enough credit for their football intelligence from 1 to 15 in terms of reacting to a game, understanding the flow of a game, the momentum of a game, what's on the clock, what they've got to do, what they've not. It's just they know when to drop deep. It's funny, you can pick up on the camera, and the commentary made a comment about Mickey Moore and shouting. I think he was shouting tight. Was he shouting tight or squeeze? He was shouting something, and it was a signal for players on the field to adjust on the field to go and do something defensively, I think. But I just don't think they get enough credit for their football IQ. They're just a phenomenal team. But the point are so close, boys. Like they've got lots of quality footballers too. The big gunk for them will have been to get so close, to lay the marker down in the way they did in the first day, and then to beat the teams they beat subsequently. Their tails must have been up, and they must have been flying high leading into this game. I watched it again today. Like, until I think Jock got the goal. I don't know if Jock or Jerome. It was a bit of a scramble. Yeah. And was it Jock that was given the goal? I'm not sure.
I think it was Jock. I'm not too sure now, but
I think that put them 5 up. And until that point, there was nothing in the game. Like, yes, Kilcoo kept themselves ahead. There was nothing in the game. And then the goal just seemed to suck all of the energy and belief out of the point, and Kilcoo just nailed on a couple or 3 points, and all of a sudden it went from 3 to 8, and it was over at that point, And I think that the point will be disappointed that it petered out in the way that it petered out. But there's no better team. I mean, as soon as they went 5 points up, Ryan Johnson controls the pace, turning sideways, giving it back out the other side. I mean, their game management is off the charts for me.
Yeah. Let's see what, watching the game, and, two of the top teams in the county, certainly from last year, and, evidence this year. How would you rate that game, on Kilcoo's performance?
That was a brilliant Kilcoo performance, I thought. It was absolutely superb. It was probably one of their best performances since maybe the early rounds Ulster Championship last year, but I thought they were brilliant. And I actually don't subscribe to the notion that the point are very close. I think that showed on Sunday maybe that they're slightly further off than people think, because Kilcoo had more in them. And what they did, especially in the second half, it was near light and day between them and 1 point. Now, 1 point looked leggy. They were lacking somebody to just take the game by the scruff of the neck. And it's all well and good, these early rounds of our championship structure, and, you can beat your Kilcoos in those early rounds. But this is the business end of it now. And when the straight knockout comes, Kilcoo are obviously picking for this. But 1 point, I think they'll be seriously disappointed, because it nearly looked like they gave up the ghost in the second half. And fair credit to Kilcoo, there's some big calls made. Chuck Brannigan didn't start. You presume he's dropped. Aaron Morgan didn't see, game time. Darrell O'Halloran out of the picture. So Mickey Moore makes some serious calls. But another point today, I was reading a newspaper article, and it was an interview with Aaron Brannigan. And Aaron Brannigan was talking about the winning mentality in Kilcoo, and he mentioned about even losing a training game, a Kilcoo training, hurts really, really bad, and that's that mindset there. But Warren Point need to look now. Maybe how they manage the championship. They probably were trying to go strong from the start to put out a marker, but if they're maybe a wee bit smart about it next year, maybe look towards the latter stages of the championship in terms of them taking. But that was a hell of a disappointment for them. And the way I did think they gave up a wee bit meekly at times, but that's possibly to do with their campaign and the extra time, the penalties, and they just did look a wee bit leggy.
Doran, do you think that the Clonduff game scored 1 point leading up to that game? And Kilcoo certainly were in cruise control against Ostrava, and they just seemed to be going through the gears in that game.
Look, probably if you've been really bad, look, Clonduff probably should have beat Warren Point. I think Clonduff showed serious weaknesses in Warren Point. That Warren Point weren't having to do that into the habit this year of just going man on man and pushing up and leaving they leave plenty of space in behind when they go and then kick out. So you go on a full press sometimes. Against Clonduff it happened. I thought they were caught 2 or 3 times, and I thought Kilcoo obviously sat down and watched the video. And probably, as you said there, look, Kilcoo beat their 7, they got a second gear, they're nice, and they were Warren Point were took to the paint of their colour. But if you can say all the Warren Point, if somebody had said the Warren Point man at the start of the year, you'll beat Kilcoo, you'll beat Borden, and you'll beat Clonduff in the championship, you'll be sitting thinking, yeah, and then you told you're not even making the final. But I do agree with Mark, like there's a time and place to beat Kilcoo, and it's knockout stage and knockout stage only. Because I know a couple of years for Castlewellan, we took them close to an extra time, and it was in qualifiers. Sorry, I'm trying to ring me there. And I think it's the sooner down. I think down.
Now McLean, is it?
straight knockout. I think down championship is straight knockout. But look, I give Kilcoo credit. I thought that was one of the best in team displays I've seen from any Gaelic team. I thought I have never seen them play as well as that. Like I thought they were brilliant in an Ulster final last year. But I thought on Sunday they were that was the best I've seen them play. And I actually think, look, no disrespect to any other map, like I know Paul McCaver done great work there, Jim McCarthy, Mickey Moore now has them playing the best football I've ever seen them play. And like Shane mentioned the thing the other football IQ, but if you look, they do the simple things well. They do the simple things are done well, but they're done at serious pace. Like I thought, like if you've been really cold about it, but like Kilcoo gave Warren Point the goal. It was a bad kick out for it, and I think like if Kilcoo took a goal chance in the first half, that Warren Point being out the gate, and then if you go back to the third goal chance, I think Keelan Doherty, where he done everything right, hard, lower on the ground. I think it was Paddy Murdoch got back and cleared it out of the lane. It probably would have been one of the all-time great goals. The quick hands, it was a hand pass to the man coming off. If that had went in the net, you'd been sitting going, that's probably the best championship goal we've ever seen. But I just think Kilcoo, and to be fair, they have raised the barn down, because down clubs now are looking at them going, how are we going to catch these boys? We have to up our game here. And look, maybe at times you think clubs are getting closer, but then you look at Sunday evening and you just go, a long way to go. I actually think they're better now than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Because they've now Ryan Johnson fully fit. They've introduced Ryan McAvoy is playing all the time. Sheelan Johnson, and Sheelan was very quiet. They've actually a real serious squad now. You said Jack didn't start, Darrell Hanlon didn't start, Aaron Morgan didn't start, but it's their pace. And you look, how many times on Sunday did they create chances to back each other's pace with a wee dink ball over the top? They know he's going to win in pace. He'll hit the pace to take it. And I just thought it was one of the best team displays I've seen from a team in a long, long time.
That's 9 finals in a row now, Darnie.
Yeah, 10 finals in 12 years.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, people were saying maybe they're finished, maybe when Paul McCaver, and look at the team that finished up in the field. I know they took Lava. If they end up with Chuck, I think Chuck and Niall McAvoy and Niall Brannigan, take them 3 out. Jerome Johnson's the next oldest at 26. And he ain't going anywhere. You got the boys who've come
through. Look as well, Dorney, at their underage setup, and look what's coming through. They have a conveyor belt coming through, and all the work that's going on that they put in 15, 20 years ago. It's now a conveyor belt.
People forget 20 years ago, Kilcoo in Division 3.
Yeah.
And I know I'd be friendly with a couple of people in Kilcoo, and I know they've done, it's that 15 or 20 years, done serious work at underage, and it pays dividends. If you put the work in and you have a long time or plan in head, I think it works. But it's getting the right man. Look, it does it. It's not just a matter of saying, oh, we're going to put Tom, Dick, and Harry in charge of this for the next 4 or 5 years at underage. You need the right man and coaching the right way.
Yeah,
and it's a big and the credit too. Look, there's people that say they're jealous or you. It's just like on Sunday I just sat back and watched and went, well, look, fair play, because they've done everything the right way.
Mark, you mentioned something there about picking teams for different days. I mean, or certainly the squad, the scenario. That's what they do. They look at a team, like I guarantee the team that finished or started that match won't be what starts the match against Cardiff. They'll analyse that. I think they get their matchups brilliantly well. Nearly every time they get their matchups spot on. Like the move of the match for me was putting Keely Dock on John Boyle, because it pretty much nullified John's influence on the game completely. Like at one point in the first 10 minutes, I'm watching, and Keely Dock's just like, forget about the ball. He's just marking John Boyle. Like John Boyle come on against Clonduff and just changed the momentum of the game. He got on the ball. He was like a quarterback, just moving the ball and gave them a big sense of belief and confidence. He was nullified, right? And then Keely Dock got on the front foot there and got himself in behind him for a couple of goal chances. Like that was a brilliant move. I would never have thought you'd put him on John Boyle. I never would have thought that's what you would have done.
So, Hall, if you think back the first day, even to put Eugene Brannigan and John Boyle, and it was everybody. John Boyle was out of the game. They obviously looked at that and went, "Well, look, we're going to be brave here."
Yeah.
Because everybody thought they'll go Eugene Brannigan again and John Boyle, and next thing they put Keely Dock, and Keely Dock then was their link man.
Yeah.
But also did an arm move, like Paddy Murdoch made great progress against them the last day. Eugene Brannigan was putting him. Eugene Brannigan kicked 3 points. Paddy Murdoch's nowhere to be seen.
But there's a sense for me in the group that there's no egos in the group. You stand down on a given day, you come in the next day, you move over and someone else is doing that job and you have a different job. That there doesn't seem to be any egos. And I don't know if you notice at the end of every when Mickey Moran's speaking to them, they're just totally attentive. Like they're just lapping it up. There's just complete discipline into what's going on there. And the other thing is, Doran, you don't really get a lot of information, right? I mean, Mark, you're talking there about a newspaper article. You don't really get a lot of information about what goes on in there, but there must be fierce working on in that 30-35 man in-house training sessions. It must be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just in terms of the key cog, I think a lot of this is Mickey Moran, because respect those Kilcoo boys have for him, and he is operating on a completely different level in terms of tactics. And them Kilcoo boys obviously have high expectations of their management team, but what Mickey Moran's done in the past and the way he's operating now and get them the All-Ireland final and all, the respect levels there for him, and I think they hang on his every word. And he can make a decision, like not starting some of the top end players in the club. He can drop captains, and that's respected by all, simply because what do they think of Mickey Moran? And I think that's a big point.
I noticed last year in one of the Ulster games, Ryan McAvoy got a black card near the end of a game, and he came over to the sideline and he was apologising to Mickey Moran on the way off, and he literally just pointed to the dugout and didn't say a word to him, and he just accepted it, and then he went. And I just thought, I know he's only a young lad making his way, but it was just total acceptance of Mickey Moran, and like credit to them. Do you remember, was it 2 years ago when people said, oh, they've appointed Mickey Moran, and we're all going, what's going on there? Like, I mean, where do they think they're going, and do they think they're going to get any further? And lo and behold, so it's a phenomenal effort by just the entire club, really.
Well, it's just with the Warren Point, then we'll just finish on them. It's sort of like the Olympic cycle, 4 years now with Niall, and they've got so close last year. Is he freshen things up, and how did Warren Point then? Like, what do you do if you're a contender to Kilcoo?
John, I saw Doran in the Point today with Fergal McCormick, so I don't know if anything going on there.
He's not that bad, is he?
Fergus, I was going to say something or not.
Well, listen, give McAleenan serious credit, like, right, because what he's brought them forward. Bernie Rowan, I think, before him had done a job, and he's coming again, and I think he's moved them forward. So, you know, age profile of the point is pretty decent. You know, to me, it's pretty decent, and they look like they've got a bunch of good athletes. You know, they'll be very sore. I think there's still a kick in the point. I don't think it's the end of an era from the point. Maybe you're right. Maybe Niall will look at it and say, I've gone as far as I can go. Maybe somebody else comes in. But they probably need to be looking, you know, at a certain caliber of coach now to try and really, you know, I think in their scenario where they haven't won one, you got to go and get somebody that has won one or two or three, and that person comes in and they know what they're doing because they've done it before, and you bring that caliber of coach in to the point and you get another reaction from them, you know.
But even, like, that's what I'm saying, like, even if, you know, obviously Niall hasn't decided what's happening or anything, but even him to bring in somebody new just to freshen it up as well.
Of course.
Shane, you know, just the, like, it just seems to be that now, you know, they're so close, and I know Fitzy, you're saying they're not, but you know, they were appointed it last year. You know, how do they go to the next level then?
Yeah, Shane makes a valid point. Niall McAleen's done a great job. Him and the backroom team, you know, even McAvoy and Ollie Sloan, that they've a great job to get them into this position as contenders. But that Kilcoo defeat had to be a rude awakening there, you know, and there's got to be a lot of soul searching players and management. 4 years is a long time, and I think Niall can look at what he's done there and be really proud of what he's done, because he has brought them up to the top table. But looking at possibly moving forward, maybe not next year, but down the line, somebody with Ulster pedigree, you know, that's what they need to be looking at. Somebody's, you know, top club in Ulster, maybe in Derry, Tyrone County. Somebody knows what it takes to win championships, and that might be what they're maybe looking for to bring them on to that next level to you know, close the gap and Kilcoo a bit. But no, fair credit to Niall and his team. They've done a great job.
Good stuff, boys. So we'll do the team of the week, the Ruball's senior team of the week, and Hollow, we'll go for the contenders first. And Mark Fitz, you've got the deciding vote this week, if that's okay, to make the team, all right? So we'll go with Hollow's and Dorney's nominees then. Goalkeeper.
Mark Hines for me.
I went with Gary Mack from the point.
Jesus, Dorney.
Well, only for him. Only for him
that's
to
true.
get out the gate. 3 1-on-1s, and I thought his kick-outs were great. And I went with Hainsey last week. So.
I thought Mark Hines, 2 saves, Hollow really just put the nail in your coffin, really.
Two brilliant saves. The one of Ryan Connolly in extra time would have been, to me, the nail in the coffin for them. And Gary Mack, yes, absolutely made 2 brilliant saves, but they ended up getting beaten comfortably. Hines made saves that won them the game in my head, so that's why I give him the nod on that basis.
Just a question for you, Hollow. If you're a forward and you're in there burned down in goal, where would you hit them shots?
Hold on, Hollow burned down in goal. What age was it?
I seen it.
I'm going to tell you a story, right? I was 15 playing for Ballymun Seniors, and we were in Ansborough, right? and if any listeners of a certain vintage, Shawnee McGuigan played for the Mitchells teams in the 60s, and Shawnee was our coach at that time, and Shawnee was a forward, played with Sean O'Neill and all the rest of it. Shawnee's a great raconteur. He would tell stories all day long. But he pulled me after it. I had a chance, and I went through and I tried to smash it, and he says to me, always keep it low. The keeper will struggle to get down. Always keep it low. And I'm coaching wee lads, and every single one of them, they want to hit the stanchion. They want to smash it off the crossbar. They want to hit it as hard as they can. And it's just one of those ones, you're just looking for that wee bit of composure. Slot it low. Give a go. And sometimes low and close to the keeper, because, you know, he can't get his hands down close enough to his body to get it. So, look, some people have a knack of doing it. Ronan Beattie, we mentioned earlier, to me is a fantastic goal scorer. He knows how to finish. Yeah, Dorney, I would, you know, easy to say it. In that moment in your head, you got to think, keep it low and pass it into the net.
Hard and low,
just go for this match, you know.
Let's say, who do you go for? Goalkeeper for this week?
I'm going to go for Hines, because, as Shane mentioned, his team won on their game-winning saves. Gary McMahon kept it respectable with his saves, and he's been one of the keepers of the championship. Hines edges it this week.
Good stuff. Like, and you're not even mentioning Bobo there either. Like, who's scoring for fun these days too, Marty. Like, his free kicks ability's second to none. Another weapon for
Unbelievable.
Cuckoo.
Another weapon is right.
Yeah.
He rarely misses.
First class. So there's Mark Hines then, and as number 1. Full backs then, Shane, your 3. What do you want to put in?
It was tricky, but I've gone for Sean Campbell from Ballyholland. I thought Sean was outstanding on Sunday. Sean's one of the 3 Campbell brothers, and I probably could have picked Billy in there, but I didn't. I've gone with Sean Campbell. I've gone with Connor Cassidy, who Doran picked earlier on. I thought he was superb on Sunday past. And the only 1-point player that I got into the team, and the point boys are not thanking me for this, but I couldn't pick one other than I've Ryan Boyle in the team at cornerback. I know he didn't quite play there, but I've got Sean Campbell, Connor Cassidy, and Ryan Boyle in my team.
Doran?
I went with Gareth Henderson from Cherry Duff. Thought he was absolutely brilliant. I went with Connor Cassidy at full back. And even though I went with Ryan McAvoy, I simply had to get Ryan McAvoy again into the team. I thought Ryan McAvoy and Connor Cassidy were outstanding, and that's the full back line I went with.
Marty, any nominees there yourself you thought had an outstanding?
I actually thought Rory Campbell done quite well, though we talked earlier about how well Ronan Beattie done. I thought Rory Campbell done quite well on him and shackled him well. He proved how dangerous he was in the previous game, but I thought Rory did quite well.
Yep.
That's it. Go ahead, your 3.
3, Connor Cassidy with the 2 votes there. He had a shaky start to the championship, but my God, has he improved. So Connor Cassidy I would have in there at 3. Ryan McAvoy in there as well. I know the full back line, but a notable mention too. I thought Niall McAvoy had a great game for Cuckoo in the full back line, but I'll go Ryan McAvoy, and then the other corner, Gareth Henderson was I agree with Doran. He was superb, and he's a player who's just kind of come out over the past couple of years. So I'll go Henderson, Cassidy, and Ryan McAvoy.
Good stuff. Fitz, I hope you're writing these down, because Richie Reynolds has given off to me that I haven't written these down for him whenever we're doing the graphics. So
10 months out, yep.
Half back, Shane.
Yeah, again, I struggle to get people in certain positions, so this is what I've done. I've gone John McGill at right half back. I thought John McGill was outstanding on Sunday. I've gone with Eugene Brannigan at 6. I actually had Ryan McAvoy at 6. I know these boys are interchangeable, but I've gone with Eugene Brannigan, and I opted for Caleb Doherty, who I know he picked up John Boyle and maybe ended up in midfield, but I've got 2 other midfielders, so I had to get Caleb Doherty in the team given the role that he played, and I thought Eugene Brannigan was excellent. So McGill, Brannigan, and Doherty for my half-back line.
Doran?
I went with McGill, Dabbs, Brannigan, and Aaron Brannigan. Now, them other 2 boys you mentioned on my team, but not
in those positions.
Yeah.
Let's say go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're trying to do the impossible here and trying to pigeonhole the 2 players into a position, but John McGill's got to be there at the right half back, and I think he should be on that county panel. He's been a revelation. 6, we'll go with Eugene there. I know the role he played, but 3 points he got as well, and he just covers every bit of grass.
So you know Eugene Brannigan laid out at full forward.
Drop him, and then for 7, that was probably Aaron Brannigan's best game in the championship. He was everywhere, and he was very gamey as well. So I'll go for him in the other wing half back slot.
Good stuff, Marty. I suppose that the half back line position now, as the boys are alluding to, it's very hard to say now you're a half back or a full back. I suppose it's just man markers now, isn't it?
Oh, see the numbers on the shirts, they mean nothing now. I had a hard time with Shane Mulholland's old friend there, John Keane. Whenever I had to mark him at a half back, it used to run me ragged. But the numbers on the backs mean nothing now. Like Dorney says, you can line out at full forward and end up playing in the centre half back position. So you have to be multi-skilled, and attacking half backs are the key at the minute.
But it seems to be that 5, 6, and 7 could play at 10, 11, 12, and vice versa, right? They're just interchangeable, and some teams set up 5 and 7 are actually their attacking players, and 10 and 12 are their defensive players. They just
That's
set
the
them
way
up.
you always played Hollow, wasn't it? You lined it at 11, but you were that mobile. You just went anywhere.
There's a young Elvis year, and then there's a fat Elvis era. There's 2 eras. There's 2 eras, Tony.
Midfielders, Hollow.
I went with and like Donny's maybe picked 1 or 2 in this position. I've moved them elsewhere. I had to pick Paul Murphy. Maybe some Ballyhone bias. I had to pick Paul Murphy. He's just a warhorse. He's something else. He's 40 years of age, and he lasted 70 odd minutes, and he's made us some stuff. He's just such a leader, and to see someone like Paul Murphy crying after a game because it hurt him so much that I know that's a bit emotional, but I guess what he's doing at 40 years of age, he's marking lads at half of his age, and he took a massive hit in the first half. Don't know if you noticed, and it shook him. I think he was a wee bit dazed, but he just ploughed on and horsed on. He kicked a brilliant point off the outside of the boot, which nearly lifted the stand for the couple hundred people that were in it. And I'm going with Josh Connery. Josh is a real rangy midfield player. He's like almost a box-to-box soccer player. Really impressed with Josh over the course of the year, and again, he does a lot of work. Not necessarily always ending up on the end of things and getting scores, but he makes runs from deep, and he gets himself back on the edge of the box as well. So I've gone with Murphy and Connery.
Just to say, Josh Connery there, Peter Turley was on last week, and he was saying he's very impressed with Connery, just how simple he keeps it and knows his role and just up and down the field, like just thinking the play.
Great engine.
So it's good to see midfielders still alive and well in the county. Doran?
I went with Josh Connery. I thought outstanding. He's actually probably turned into like John McGill, one of carried off the most important play. Just never stops. It's up and down. He's everywhere. You're looking. He's cutting balls out in the fence, and then he's at the other end of the field linking. I thought he was immense. I agree with Shane. Paul Murphy had a great. That was probably his best game of the championship, and I did think, when he kicked the point, he was a point behind, I thought there was only going to be one winner. Yeah. But look, you couldn't leave Dylan Ward out. I thought Dylan Ward, the R&8, again, wearing point was just relentless. Like, how many times was he just breaking from midfield? Again, we go back to that pace. Like, the pace, I seen him on the 21 and Kilcoo defend the next time. 20 seconds later, he's a greyhound. He's already in the field kicking points. I thought, I've never seen Dylan Ward play like that. He looked like a player with that hunger, they're really a desire. I thought he actually tortured Warren Point the other night. I thought he was actually the best player in the field.
No, Dylan Ward seems a nightmare to play against too. Like, he's always in your face. He's always, but as you said, every blade of grass he was there. Like, he was just, his fitness levels must have just went through the roof. Like, it's
his pace. It's that burst of pace he has. He just
unbelievable, unbelievable. Marty, any other midfielders like to mention?
No, I would fully agree with Dorney there. Dilly Ward kicked 3 points. I thought he was immense. Couldn't keep up with him when he did burst forward. He would have been my outstanding player on the Kilcoo team. He caused all sorts of damage now to Warren Point when he ran at them.
Definitely. Fitzy, you've got 3 nominees there and only 2 places.
Yeah, tough one. Dylan Ward was absolutely sublime. Again, a player's not always guaranteed his position on that Kilcoo starting 15, but my God, he proved the point and he was excellent. So we'll have him in. I suppose from the nostalgia curves, Paul Murphy, I don't know if this is going to be the end of his career, but it's not the fairy tale end he probably would have liked. But what service, 40 years of age, playing senior football over 20 years, service the club and county, and score those couple of points, and just to be in the middle of it, as Shane says, against boys half his age, it's incredible, and I can't see how maybe that end of that game would have been emotional enough for him, because you're going out there, your club are getting very, very close to that championship final, and for just to fall short is agonising. But Paul Murphy and Dylan Ward, yeah.
Good stuff. Glad Murphy got in. All right, half forward line, Hollow.
So I've gone Dylan Ward. He was the best player in the field, as Donny says. He was absolutely outstanding. It's funny. I had Dilly Ward my first years with the minors, I had Dilly Ward in the squad and just couldn't get him to concentrate, focus, come to training. I had Terry O'Hanlon on the phone saying, Terry, what can you do to get me? Because I could see all the talent that he had. He just hadn't the application at that age. But boy, what a player he's turned into. You're right, John. I wish he would stop some of the histrionics that goes on. But some players just need that wee bit of extra needle or edge to really get them going. And maybe that's what Dilly has or is. But you can't. His athleticism and his football ability, he's absolutely superb. So I've Dilly Ward. I've Ryan Johnson, who again is just an absolute class act and just, you know, he's so important. He's like an orchestrator for that team. And then I have Mark Walsh from Ballyholland. I thought Mark Walsh took a knock earlier on, but ran himself to a standstill for Ballyholland on Sunday. And so I wouldn't fancy playing against that half forward line. Dilly Ward, Mark Walsh, and Ryan Johnson.
Doran.
I went with Mark Walsh. Again, I agree with Hull. I thought he was outstanding. Just, he never stopped. And people were saying, I know when you took him off in extra time, people were going, what are taking him off for? But I think he was just, he was running.
Yeah,
he could barely run.
Yeah.
And as you can tell with pace, he's a boy who has serious pace too when he gets going. I went again with Jerome at 11, Jerome seems to have a new lease of life out there where he plays just 11, goes in and out. Again, look, with this conversation tonight at County Train, he's unmarkable at the minute. Like, he's gone through every game. There's maybe 5 or 6 different markers going, and he's just, I think he's the form forward in the county. And at left half forward, I went with Kieran Hardy simply because he played up there, and I thought that was move of the match, putting them in John Boyle just completely. And like we got, he reminds me of a Conor Lavery of 15 years ago. He's just when we gets the ball, he's thinking the next move. Where's the next move? And look, probably was under a bit of pressure after the first day, and one point where he had the goal chance. He had 2 goals at it, and Gary Mack saved them. Again, he did chance. Gary Mack saved them. Then that chance he had again with the slick pass, moving the third goal chance. You could see him steadying himself hard and low along the ground. He done everything right, and then just Paddy Murdoch. Just get back to that, but that was my half-forward line. Mark Walsh, Jerome, and Kieran Doherty.
Marty, any nominees?
I'm not repeating what the boys are saying. I have Mark Walsh wrote down here, so I actually thought an important player for Carryduff that lost him was Joe Tunney. Joe Tunney was a big loss to Carryduff when he went off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Shane was glad to see the back of him.
Yeah.
And he had stayed on. Now I think he would have been influential in that game.
He's a wee live wire, Marty. Yeah.
He's unreal. He would be. I don't think he's that old either. Now he'd be still pretty young, like the most of that Carryduff team, I suppose. But he was a loss. Now he would have caused Ballyholland a lot of trouble had he stayed in the field.
Yeah.
That's it. 3 forwards then from.
Yeah, well, hopefully Jerome Johnson comes into the equation, the full forward line nominations, but Mark Walsh was there. Ryan Johnson, who's probably playing the best football I've ever seen him play for Kilcoo in the centre.
Ryan Johnson lined up at corner forward. Jerome lined up at 11.
Doran, numbers mean nothing.
The numbers mean nothing.
He lined up at corner forward and tonight played third midfielder.
Well, he's playing on Fitzy's team as third midfielder.
Yeah.
Big Murph's holding.
Yeah. Kieran Doherty in there, who, I know he's had his injury woes, but I think we're starting to see the real potential in him coming through. And Doran, I think, made the point that he could be the next, the heir to Conor Lavery's sort of role. So.
Just football ability, nothing else. Sorry, lad.
So who else? Who was that then?
Mark Walsh, Ryan Johnson, and Kieran Doherty.
Brilliant. Hello, please tell me you've got Jerome in the full forward line.
I do. I just
want to talk about Jerome here for a second. What do you put it down to this? 2 years ago, boys, he seemed, I don't know, like he wasn't the same footballer that he is now. Remember a couple of years, like he was remarkable whenever he was in his early 20s. Like he had that turn of pace. He had that strength for defenders. Now all of a sudden he's got it back again, and like as Tony says, like Ryan McLean was on him. Then Cormac McCartan had to go on him. For Straver, he was shooting from long distance. And then he went into the full forward line. you know, what have you put down to Hollow? Like, how can a player turn this?
It's hard to say. Players, stuff goes on outside of football. Do you know, maybe he's starting a business, or he changed his job, or he had a bad year in a relationship, or you just don't know mentally where people are in any given year. I think maybe physically he had an ailment or two. I don't know enough about it, but I mean, you could always see his goal threat, his pace, his scoring prowess, and yet he just seems to be in a rich seam of form at the minute, where he looks like he's unplayable. And you know, he's walking onto the field, he's probably thinking, "There's nobody in this field can mark me," and that just changes the mentality completely. So maybe he's in that spot right now. And again, you mentioned, you know, Mickey Moore and Conleth Gilligan. You know, he was a super forward in his day as well. Maybe them boys are just saying the right things, putting them out in the right way, and he's just taking off again. So it's hard to tell what the difference is. Physically, he doesn't look any different, Dorney, in terms of, it's not that he's bulked up or taking anything off or anything. He just seems to be mentally in a great place.
I would see physically. I know he likes the gym now. To be fair, he's put serious. He's very, very strong for the height of him. He's actually he's the same sort of build if you remember Ronnie Murda a few years ago. That sort of build. But like, if you go back to the Borden game, and I rate Peter Fagan as a really good mark, and Peter was standing him up and doing everything right. But Jerome just had the power just to go by him. And you look like Ryan McAleenan could do nothing, and Cormac McCartney, he just went through them every game. Yeah. But I think he's playing with confidence now.
Isn't it funny as well that he's so left-footed, and yet he still gets onto that left foot? You know, he stood Cormac McCartney up in the corner in the second half and went back twice onto his left foot and still got his shot off. No, he's in great shape at the minute. He was outstanding on Sunday as well. Yeah. Outstanding.
Have you seen the change in him as well? Like, or you know, definitely he definitely was off the boil. I don't know whether he was off the boil or whether he just didn't have that zip anymore.
Maybe his conversion rates weren't what they were past while, but geez, he's really come into life for this championship. Physically, he just looks so compact. He's moving well. I know played with injuries again as well in the past few years, but he seems to have shook that off, and maybe he's just having an injury-free, curve-free season where he's just able to do what he does, and he's been deadly. And I actually think he's been the best player in the senior championship this year and down.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, Hollow, your other two nominees then.
So at Jerome, I had Ronnie Murda because of the impact that he had in our game. I was looking at Ross McGarry, Shane Mulholland, and this is something you said earlier. Maybe, you know, we just expect a lot of some of these players. You go, well, you would expect that of him. But Ronnie's impact for us, and again at his age, at 38, 39 years of age, coming in, and I just thought, again, maybe a sentimental choice, but I'd Ronnie Murda in there. And as I looked around, I generally struggled for another one. Now, given me and Doran seem to be all the right people in the wrong places, but I've gone with Owen McCabe because I thought Billy Campbell did really well in Owen McCabe, and for a county player, I thought Owen McCabe would have had more impact on the game. But he scored 1-1 or 1-2, and he was their go-to man on their go-to kick-out. You know, they load up his side and they go on top of him, and he invariably gets his hand on that ball when they need it. So for importance to carry it off, and I was trying to balance across the team, Kilcoo, Ballyholland and Carryduff, to give it a spread across the 15. I just couldn't get more 1 point people into it, but I've gone with Jerome Johnson, Ronnie Murda and Owen McCabe as a full forward now.
Yep. Dorney?
Well, I went with boys in I was in other positions, so I'm happy enough. I went with Ryan Johnson, I went with Eugene Brannigan, I went with Ronnie Murda. I've thought, and look, I agree with Shane Mulholland, what was saying about Owen McCabe. Owen McCabe is why, to be fair, he's starting to find form again. There's people sometimes look at Owen McCabe and think, oh, he's Owen McCabe probably is one of the best fielders of a ball that I have ever seen. And I actually think his best position is full forward. But simply because Ronan Beattie's doing so well in there, you can't really take him out. But I think that Ryan Johnson's obviously in the half forward and happy, and Eugene Brannigan somewhere else. But I thought Ronnie Murda, the second half, I thought he was a man turning the tide for Ballyholland. He got the ball. He seemed to settle everybody down. He seemed to settle Shimmy down. He seemed to bring Kieran Rush and these boys into the game, just a wee, settle them down. And like the minute Ronnie got the ball, it's the Ronnie of all, get the ball and just turn and go at me. And like if you're playing inside forward, you're playing a cornerback, the one thing you hate is a man getting the ball and just turning and going at you. And that's what Roney and all. And to be fair, probably the biggest shock of Sunday was in passing the ball.
Yeah.
It was probably the biggest shock, but I think Roney more than
Doran, you'll laugh at this because you'll know this from playing with him. He was very much in the background right throughout and started to get much sharper in training. The boys were telling me he's flying in training. He's unbelievably well, and he gets sprung from the bench. And even when he came on, he was quite sensible and sedate of himself. You see, by the time we got to the water break in the second half, he was in the team talk in the huddle saying, "Give me the fucking ball."
If you're the pound for every take, even at training, just give me the ball.
Yeah.
To be fair, I thought he was a turning point. But Ballyholme did a lot better when he was in it. Just a pity for the likes of Roney and Paul that it didn't work out. But that's the way football is.
Marty, any other nominees for the full forward line?
Yeah, well, the obvious Ronan Beattie. Apart from he would probably made it into those three only for the job Rory Campbell done on him. He didn't breeze past Campbell just as easy as he could pass the Bransford defence. He was stood up, he was pushed back, the physical strength. So that probably kept Ronan Beattie out of those three nominations. I don't know if Fitzy maybe has him in there. I'm not too sure, but I thought Rory Campbell done an excellent job on him. Didn't let him push him out of the road. I think Rory maybe got a booking later on, which he had to watch himself in there. So, but Ronan Beattie's probably just a bit just outside of those three.
Yeah. Marty, just quickly, Marty, just quickly on Ronan Beattie, his turn in the Bransford game for his goal. I don't know. I'm sure you've all seen it. The turn in a sixpence. It was like literally like watch it again. I wanted to watch it again. What did he do? It was unbelievable. His turn for that goal against Bransford. I think that to me that was the moment of the championship in terms of a bit of skill that I've seen so far.
He just breezed past them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Let's say your three then to complete the team this week.
Yeah, so I suppose notable mentions there for Ronan Beattie, and I even think Seamus Loughlin too. But the three, Jerome Johnson's a shoe-in, Ronan Murda taking sentimentality out of it, he's there on merit, and Owen McCabe, who showed what he could do with the county, and again could have a big say in this final as well. So they're the three I went for.
Well done, man. Well done, lads, for making the team, and we'll talk about the final later on in the conclusion. But that's the team this week. Marty, we'll move on to the juniors now. You were at the two games. I sent you on missions now to get all the info. We'll start off with Dundrum and Knockness to Finn, and I think it's only one man you can talk about, really.
At young Shay Crosby. Just Dundrum had done very well, and say I didn't get revenge on Fitzy just by tipping the Finn. It was my opinion. I thought they would learn from last year and that hunger to go out and win it after getting beaten in the final. Dundrum got a goal just on half time to bring it back into level pegging, going in right on the half, and at the second water break, I think it was 1-9 apiece. Then young Shay Crosby just took the game by the scruff of the neck. I think he rattled over maybe 8 points from play, and Dundrum couldn't stop him. Dundrum had done a master stroke of putting Big Aaron Doyle in on Adam Garland, stop the aerial threat, going in straight to Adam Garland, and Aaron done very well. Yet Adam Garland, I think, returned 1-4. But and you say how did he do well whenever the man scored 1-4? But I'm sure Mark Fritz will agree with me there that Aaron done a good job on him and was the link man for a lot of the Dundrum kickouts. But yeah, Shay Crosby was the player of the game there.
Fritzy, obviously disappointing for yourselves. I think that's the second year in a row. The Finn have beat us in the semi-finals. Would it be right?
Yeah, they beat us last year in Cuckoo. It was a wee bit tighter, but the Finn have improved this year. They've Division 3 football behind them, and simply the difference was Shay Croskery. He hit 8 from play, so he was the difference. Now we're 1-9 each at the heading in towards the last kind of quarter of the game, and they outscored us then 7-1 in the latter stages, and we just ran out of steam, and they had plenty left in them. But see, Croskery is the type of boy, even the junior level, you nearly need to double mark him. You need to do something completely different with him, because he is a class act, especially at that particular level. But yeah, look, we've half our starting team are 34 or over, so some boys are 3 junior championship medals starting. So we've been round the block a lot, and they probably had youth on their side and a bit more exuberance, but we give it a fist of it. There is a divisional gulf there, but we made a real fist of it and just fell up short. But it was Shay Croskery was the difference.
Shay Croskery, Doran, a fella on your radar at all?
Yeah, funny enough, we're going to the game on Friday night. Just run around. I know Adam. Somebody mentioned Adam Doran. I know Adam used to play for Castlewellan. I know Adam well. I remember watching Adam in the minor final 3 or 4 years ago against Dramar, and he raked up big scores. And look, to be fair, Shay is a name that's been banded about the last couple of years, and actually looking forward to Friday night just to see him in action against St Paul's, because I think I actually fancy St Paul. I know the Finn boys probably going. I actually have a funny feeling St Paul's will beat the Finn on Friday night. Just the 2 big Grimleys. I know from talking I was talking to actually Remy Clark a few weeks ago, and last Thurman manager, and he was really, really impressed with St Paul's. But it's a game Friday night we're going to watch, and looking forward to it.
It's St Paul's first final ever. Am I right in saying that?
That's right. Yeah. So
huge occasion for them.
Yeah, St Paul's Drummondess. Marty, you got it wrong this one. I just want to point that out.
Thanks for
that. St Paul's then, they've done great work. Everyone's saying about hitting the great work and all, but they must have a good team now.
Hugely impressed with them. So I thought if Drummondess, if Donald Kennedy played, they would have that firepower. Donald had 2 goal opportunities in the first 5 minutes. And he didn't get a score out of them. He wasn't at full fitness. I know that they wrapped him in cotton wool for the last week to try and get him there. It actually brought 3 experienced boys back into the team who hadn't played in about a month. Bit of a gamble by Drummondess, which didn't quite pay off for them. The lack of football, those boys maybe just didn't work. But I was hugely impressed with St Paul's. Big Niall Grimley in the full forward line, great target man. Very tough, going to be very, very tough for the Finn to mark him. The Finn's very small, mobile defence, but with Big Niall Grimley in there as a target man, Sean Tucker, and moved him in out of centre half forward into the full forward line, and brought Daniel Eastwood out as the link man between defence and attack. Daniel's handling and his strength. The ball just stuck him like glued. Wouldn't matter. There was a bit of a shower of rain. The ball was sticky. It wouldn't matter what way went that Daniel. It just stuck. And he was a great link man. He didn't get on the score sheet, but yeah, I got that one wrong. But hugely impressed with St Paul's now.
Hollow, you said there that is St Paul's first ever final. Played against August Finn, who's were in it last year. Does that have a bearing on how you think this game will go?
I do. I mean, it's an experience that should stand by you. You should be able to learn from that. Like that, a little small thing. That was our, not that we haven't played in Uri before. It was our first time in Uri this year, and just with COVID, we were a wee bit like, where do we change, and are we allowed on the pitch? And it was all them wee things just have a little small, like a tiny small percentage play in some things. Yes. I think to Mark's point, I think the divisional gap is probably bigger in that there should be, they've played at a higher level, albeit with an abbreviated number of games this year, but that should stand by them. I think we called them at the start, Dorney, earlier in one of your programs in terms of who would win, and I think we called the Finn because I think the only Division 3 team playing in the junior this year, isn't that right? I think. What's that, Dorney?
You know, the Finn have looked to be, you said, I think, the final last year, and they have a lot of good young players. Owen Flanagan's a boy, Marty maybe knows about. I know Owen. They have, like, the Finn definitely more young and mobile than they are. I actually seen them about, just I think I was telling you, Fig, the night before you split Castlewell in the league game, I went and watched them in Uri, and like Shamrocks gave them a complete lesson on just on the big wide open field. And at the start of the year, I did think the Finn will maybe be too strong, but just from hearing stuff, and I've watched a wee bit out for St Paul's simply because I remember I was involved last year. We're doing under 16s, and there's a wee boy from St Paul's on it. He's actually a hurler, and his father was telling me how the good work they're doing, and that they're really they're really pushing on. And just watching the results and stuff, and it was Ramey Clark from last summer, and Ramey says to me, like, they're serious, the strength, physicality, and I just have a funny feeling with Hugh Grimley's that they'll get over the line, albeit the Finn, look, they were a bit there last year and have that experience. And as you say, Rory Crossgray, Adam Garland, Owen Flanagan will take a lot of watching, but I just have a funny feeling St Paul's will just nick it.
Paulo, could you call this one?
Finn for me. Just on the divisional gap, I just think it'll be too much.
Marty, you know, you've been to the matches now, and I suppose with St Paul's, you know, they seem to have a good style of play as well. They know what they're doing, but the Finn, they've a great attack. So how do you call this one?
I think I said last week on your show, I fancied my tip was the Finn. I'm going to go change my mind on that. After seeing St Paul's, I thought they were a serious unit. The young lad Josh Gray, I think he's in the county minors this year. He wasn't available last week against Drummond S. I actually had 3 or 4 boys unavailable. That I think Tom Grimley was missing for suspension. Josh and Dan Gray were missing. If they've Josh Gray back there till Mark Shay Crossgray, and they've another young lad Shay Lockern in there. He's not a good defender, half back. Get them young fellas. They're only 18. Interesting point about St Paul's. We all consider them St Paul's and Breda and carried off of this world as a lot of blow-ins and the blow-in and the blow-out again. And they go. The interesting fact about St Paul's, I was chatting to the PRO, that out of the 28-man squad, only 4 of them are not from the area and haven't come up through the youth ranks right from under 5.
Yeah.
So they're doing a fantastic job down there in St Paul's, bringing the youth through and good minor teams. So they've brought all them young lads through, and the average age of that St Paul's team is 22. Daniel Eastwood at 26 is classed as one of the elder statesmen. There's a lot of talk about the young carried off team. I think their average age was 23, but St Paul's went one better. They're 22, the average age of them young lads. So they did lose Patrick Eastwood to a red card late on in that game against Drummond S, which, well, the return of Tom Grimley will compensate for the loss of Patrick Eastwood. But I'll change my mind and I'll go for the physicality, strength, and the sheer size. I can't believe the size of some of them. Brought on a big lad, Cahill. What was his name? Cahill McKenna, and another fella, Derek McGrattan. Big lumps of lads, like huge. They'll be forced to reckon with. They played another lad, Doran. He lined out at 13 and slotted in a sweeper. They do that against the Finn. They cut out the supply into Adam Garland, and if he's there to stop the running of Shay Crossgray. St Paul's, I'm going to go for St Paul's on that.
Good stuff, Marty. At least it takes a brave man to admit when he's wrong. So well done, boy. Well done. But say, I suppose, like, you know, I've called it at the start of the season that these 2 teams would be contesting the final, and it's panned out that way. How do you think it'll go? And, you know, junior football, the standard, do you think it's improving year on year?
Yeah, just on your last question there, I mentioned in a previous show, junior football in Down has improved, and it's improved markedly over the past 2 years. you used to go to Hollywood on a Friday night in a Division 4 game, whatever, and you just knew you were going there to beat St. Paul's. That's all changed now. That whole mindset has changed. You used to think you were getting easy 2 points in Hollywood. Those days are gone. The improvement they've made in the past 2 years is remarkable. You know, Peter Heffron there and Paddy Hannigan, it's unreal. And finally, you know, you would have had boys from nearly every county in Ulster playing for them, and wouldn't know what team they would have 1 week to the next. See now, Marty made the point. See the amount of local boys they have from Bangor, Newton Ards, and Hollywood, all boys that have come through the underage ranks. Big win for them over Drummond-S, and they done it without the two Greys, they done it without Tom Grimley and Liam Hogan. They're all to come back in. You know, Drummond-S will be very disappointed. Finn get in the final last year. Now, I thought the Finn got a wee bit carried away last year. They beat us in the semi-final. It was their first final, and they're releasing songs and all that. But look, they've a week, so all that hype and all that can be contained because they've only got a week this time round. And you gotta learn. You know, was it PJ McGee once said, you know, you win a final. You know, you learn to win a final after you've lost one. So I think you're going to have to go there with a Finn in terms of learning from last year. St. Paul's are a great side at junior level. They'll put it up to them. It's their first final. Not sure in terms of experience that, but again, there's only a week there, so there's, you know, you don't have to think too much and overthink it. But if they don't cope with Shay Crossgray and Adam Garland, it's the Finns to lose. If they can do something with Crossgray, I'd maybe be a bit concerned where the scores are going to come if he's limited. But I'm going to give a tentative nod to the Finn. They have been playing Division 3, and don't underestimate the job that Dolly Crossgay's done. Last year, got them promoted out of 4, final of the championship, and this year, done well in 3 with them. They, you know, they got a win and a draw, and they're back in our championship final. He's done a great job as manager, but again, just them to edge it by the slightest margins to Finn.
Good stuff, boys. Good stuff.
Hey, you to decide and vote. Who are you going for?
My team St. Paul's have been bigging them up now for 2 years, so I think they'll come good now. So we've got a 5-year plan in place. So hopefully they do it. Right, boys. Okay, we'll move on to intermediate now. Just to let you know, my computer's running out of No, look, speak away. You know, this is Hollow. I suppose Saul against Drumgaff. I don't think too many would have called it at the start. You know, there was a lot of teams that were talked about before them, but 2 teams that have deserved to be there.
Yeah, well, I called the Shamrocks, if you remember. I thought they were given the experience from last year and just what I knew that Marty Rafferty was doing and Gavin Murphy was doing with them. I just thought I saw them against Savile up in Ballyholland, and I thought did enough about them. They looked decent. So I was a bit, not that I was surprised at your result, but because I knew you would be in the game and give them a game. But that was a big scalp for you to take them out and then to follow that up the next day out as well. So I saw Drumgaff and Ballyholland against Banbridge. Banbridge were poor on the day, and Drumgaff won that game comfortably, but they looked strong all over. Parsons at fullback was steady. There was nothing coming through there, and they'd some really decent movement up front. You know, they really caused problems for Clanabana that day. So, look, you. In my head, you're the favourites. Just given who you've beaten, you know, I think given who you've beaten, if that Perrin was the final Perrin, I wouldn't have been surprised at that. So I think you boys, a little bit of pressure comes now with you being favourites, and maybe you haven't been favourites in the last couple of days out. So, but knowing what I know about Saul and the efforts that they've put in over the last number of years. I had Lorcan Horney and Pierce Laverty down minors. So I know there's some great lads in there. So it's a Saul nod for me. Providing that you can step up and make the right decisions on the sideline, you know.
Hopefully I don't have to do a halftime interview.
True.
Fitzy, you got your 2 great games at the weekend. Have you got your team there, and Doran, your nominees as well? And then we'll let the 2 boys decide who's on it. Goalkeeper, boys. Fitzy, go ahead.
I hear. Wait a minute. You text me saying boys provided team out the final say in them all.
Go ahead, Doran.
I went with Jack Hazard. Just simply, I think Jack has improved. Every time I see him, he's getting better. He's a big frame of a fella. But the thing I was really impressed with on Saturday was his talking to the defence, keeping everybody right, composure. And I think Jack deserves Team of the Week this week. Just he hasn't put a foot wrong all year.
No, super. That's any changes?
No, Jack Hazard been the best keeper in the intermediate this year, and he's been superb. He's been number one.
Good stuff. Boys, I don't know if you've seen too many of the intermediate, but Jack Hazard, this year's stepped up the plate a lot, and everyone's talking about a potential down star now.
I'll bow to Marty because I'd be an imposter to say I have an opinion because I haven't seen too many of the games, so I'll bow to Marty.
Yeah, well, I've seen Jack. Came up against him in a minor final. I was managing Dromara a couple of years ago, and Jack was playing huge. But I think he had trials with Celtic and trials with a couple of soccer teams there. He's a huge big lad and a good keeper. Do you think if we named a full intermediate team of Sol players would have put Figgy under any pressure, would
it? Precious for tires, boys. Right, Doran, fullbacks.
Fullbacks, I went with Pierce McHone from Dungas. Thought very good there. Saturday stepped up, checked the points. Thought he was very good at fullback. I went with Pierce Lavery. To be fair, I'm going to blow you and Ronan's heads up here. I thought you pulled the master stroke at half time, putting them back to Conor McGregor. Because look, to be fair, Conor was he was well, but once you put Pierce back to Conor, it just nullified that threat. It's just you could actually see Conor McGregor starting to get frustrated because he now was realising, well, look, Pierce can beat me in a race here, or I'm just in the air. And I thought Pierce Lavery he made it look so easy. I thought he was very good. The left corner back, I went with your full back. I can't remember his name. Yeah,
Colin Fitz.
Yes, look, to be fair, I seen him playing for down under 20s last year. This year, actually, in Donegal. I love the way he just attacks every ball. If he wins a ball, he always supports. He gives a pass. He supports every pass. And like I actually mentioned, I watched you again in Castlewell in the league game this year, and I thought he was very, very good on a Saturday game. I thought he was very good.
Yep, good stuff. That's it.
Yeah, that was a massive stroke on the change of role for Pierce Lavery. Shows his adaptability, but it was a great move relocating him, and it probably put the frighteners up McGregor as well. Like he's probably going, what the hell's happening here, and I'm going to have to change tact, The polling, been steady for Drumgaff the whole way through the championship. Now, Callum Fitzsimons there, again, so many players have improved from the start of the championship today, and he's been one of them. I think a player we play him with a bit more edge, a bit more confidence, and he's going to be a big player for Sol now, full back going into the final.
Good stuff. All right, boys. Marty, any other notable mentions?
No, I agree with the boys there. To be honest with you, watching them Drumgaff on a clone match, it was tough conditions. Wasn't the same quality as the Sol Leitrim game due to the conditions, and I think one of the Drumgaff boys says sometimes you have to win ugly, and it wasn't great quality. So that's why I'm saying a lot of these players are coming out of the Leitrim Sol game because of the quality, and it was just a bit of a struggle for the boys on the day.
Halfbacks, Doran.
I went with Dar Fagan of Anaclone, right half-back. I thought did very well, carried the fight. Like, he kicked 2 points and really carried the fight to Anaclone, or to Drumgaff, sorry. I know Dar was captain of the minors a couple of years, was really impressed with him on Saturday. At centre half-back, I went with Colin McGinn from Drumgaff. Thought Colin McGinn just drove at Anaclone every opportunity. I know Colin played county under-21s a few years ago, middle of the field. I know he's in New York. I think he's a massive player for Drumgaff, and I've moved Rory McGregor simply to the left half back. I thought in the second half when Leitrim came back, that isn't going to back the point. I thought Rory was the man driving at them, and looking, it's probably in hindsight now Leitrim maybe thinking they probably should have put Rory back to full back just for the trouble you caused them to fall for. But I think Rory just the second half for 25 minutes he just drove at you for every opportunity. So that's the half back line. I went with Dara, Colin McGinn, and Rory.
That's it.
Yeah, I think I suppose McGinn and McCrickard are probably more traditional centre half backs, but Drumgaff needed that performance from Colin McGinn at 6 because Anaclone had a lot of physicality around the middle and he could mix it and really put it up to them. Rui McCrickard again has had a great championship. He's Leitham's leader. And Darragh Fagan's probably going to take on that sort of role now going forward with Anaclone. He's going to be that man who's going to hold the back line together, and again played well in that game against Drumgaff, and probably some of Anaclone are going to look to now down the line to kind of lead that defence when some of these older boys, custodians, retire.
Per McGinn probably thought he was going to mark John Hockey for the afternoon. I think Hockey lined out 11.
I see. Anaclone trying a bit of cuckoo there. John Hockey number 11 rolling back the years, you know.
Next thing you know, I was expecting Hollow to do the same for Ballyhone. He's in having but the crib.
It was too obvious though. Once I seen John Hockey number 11, it was just too obvious this was a plot, like, you know.
Midfield then, Doran.
I went with Rory Mulholland. Just super goal he got at the start. It was unreal. I thought for 20 minutes he was just, it looked like he was only playing the field. He was everywhere. He was plucking balls out of the sky. And to be fair, Rory's a boy I know at the time he was involved with down under 21s a few years ago. Rory was involved with him. And to be fair, he's like, I've never seen, he's looked so lean and trim. He looks like a boy who's just worked serious hard his last couple of years. And he's like for 20 minutes already. And then in the second half, to be fair, he's put him on Pierce over. I think he should do a man-marking job. And like, that's not an easy job because Pierce Hogue is one of the Leitner's men. I just thought Rory Mulholland was superb. Along when I went with Paddy Downey, I thought like he wasn't due to start down to starting the programme, and then he started. I thought it was a bold move by Jackie, but I thought it was actually brilliant because I had seen Anaclone the week before that against Dramara, and for the first half, Gary McGardle, Benny McGardle, and Debbie Anderson just cleaned everything out in the air. But I thought Paddy was superb on Saturday. And him and Benny McGarry, good to see them getting to know each other again as if they don't know each other enough at work.
Work at Monday would have been happy.
Been good. But I think Pikey and Rory Mulholland they were my middle of the field from what I've seen.
Marty, any nominees for the midfield?
Pierce Hogue. I thought Pierce Hogue was excellent. I think he returned something like, I know a lot of them for 7 points for that game, and helped haul Luton back to within one score. I'm sure it was squeaky bum time there at one stage. It was getting near the end. Pierce Hogue probably could have got a shout in around the middle. Packy, as Dorney says, and Benny was in. I think he laid out with number 7 on him, but as we said earlier, numbers mean nothing. Him and Gary in around the middle too, but the only other one I would have probably give a shout in there was Pierce Hogue.
Mm-hmm. Although I've seen Pierce Hogue hits free kicks with his right foot and left foot. You know, unbelievable.
Unbelievable. There's not too many fellas over time would have done that. I know Gregory hit frees off his left and his right. It's just a joy to watch to see somebody as balanced to that. I had Ogie first year minors, and it's just, I've been surprised that he hasn't come through, you know, and he was a standout county minor at that time, like a standout county minor, and I don't know, Dorney, where he is in the grand scheme of things. I know he's a dual player and we've played a lot of hurling as well. I just don't know. I was surprised that he hasn't come through in the way that I thought he would come through, given the talent that he has.
No, super player. That's it. You're 2 then.
2. 3 very notable nominees there. Paggy Downey was important for Drumgaff. Jackie Lynch put them in there because they did need Packy's physicality around the middle, and he knows the McCardles and that, so he knew how to push the buttons there and mix it up. I'm going to go for Pierce Hogue because Pierce Hogue, Leitrim were missing a couple of players, and again, with that leadership was needed, and Pierce Hogue brought it. It's free taking, and I know him and Rory Mulholland had a great battle, especially that second period, but I would go with Paggy Downey and Pierce Hogue and Cricket.
Good stuff. Okay. Well, it's just on Packy, you know, whenever it's hard to go do transfer to the club and then come back home again, but Packy just seems to have a new lease of life for Drumgaff this year, and you know, a lot of their good work is coming through him. But
yeah,
I think Packy's enjoying maybe the leadership role because Drumgaff, like they have Conor McConville, they have a lot of young boys up front, And I would say Jackie maybe has just pulled him in and said, look, Packy, a lot of these, because people forget, I think Ross managed him down, Packy played against Mulholland one year in a championship game in Uri. Yeah. Full forward and scored a goal. Like, Jackie's maybe just pulled him aside and says, look, Packy, we want you to be a leader here. There's a lot of these wee boys look up to you. And to be fair, I thought on Saturday, it was just, sometimes people, you see Packy about sometimes and you think there's a wee screw loose. And they just, but I thought on Saturday it was just his leadership, his composure, everything he done. He put a real shift into the team. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, even though a couple of years ago, seeing for Brainsford, he's a full forward, the ball comes in, I went and got it. It isn't into my hands. I'm not running for it. But I thought on Saturday, just look, he showed a real leadership role.
Yeah, Fitzy, he's definitely got a new lease of life, and as Doran said, maybe that new leadership role has just helped him.
Yeah, look, I don't think his heart was in Brainsford, to be honest, and he's back now at his home club where he's had a great bit of success with before, but he's one of the elder statesmen now with him and Mark Conley, and he is that leader now. And young fellas will look, Packy's good with all those young boys, and they'll look up to him and they'll look to him for leadership, and he knows how to win an intermediate championship. He's played on winning team before, so he could have a big impact in this final, but it's great to see him back at his home club and enjoying his football.
Yeah, no. Marty, your half forward line then, have you any nominees for half forwards in the intermediate then?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Kieran Hardy, couldn't go past him in the half forward line. I thought he was the conductor of the orchestra in there. Evan went through him, and he's a live wire all over the place. The two Shays from Gath there, Shay McConville and Shay Byrne out in the wings, lethal speed and cause a lot of damage running the teams. Who else have we in there? That Philly Doran done well. The Anaclone team, I don't think we've any challengers for there. And Leitrim, you had Headway up there for Leitrim. Oh, PJ Davison, done very well. Strong, experienced player, done very well. But for me, it would be Kieran Hardy and the two guys.
Doran, your two nominees then, or three nominees, sorry.
I went with Ryan Hill from Gaff at 10. I know he plays 11. I just have thought his playmaking and just busy, and look, he was a real link master from Gaff. I actually seen from Gaff, I think I mentioned it last week again, Billy Martin, and I was so impressed with him. And look, Kieran Hardy at 11, I think if you're an intermediate player of the year, in the games I have seen, Kieran Hardy has just been immense. He's everywhere. He's just a wee bit. He reminds me of years ago when we were minors, 99, Ronan Saxon, just a bundle of energy. He just is like a bundle of energy. He's everywhere. And at left half forward went with Shay Borden again. Serious pace. So like when he gets like Shay's running, I think Shay's only 19 or 20, but he just looks that but oozes class in the ball. And I went with entry.
Although I suppose Kieran and Ryan Hill, number 11s have sort of gone out of the game a wee bit. That traditional player that's the link man. It's great to see it's coming back again.
Yeah, I was pulling my hair out on Sunday at the number of opportunities there was for a ball dinked into the full forward line, and I've seen it in a number of games. It's there, it's available. Players aren't looking for that dinked kick pass into the full forward. When you have a packed defence and people are keeping the ball and you're moving that defence about, I guarantee you watch the number of times there's a space in the D to thread a ball through, but fellas are so bloody afraid now to play the pass. They'd rather keep it and keep it and keep it and keep it rather than backing themselves and playing that ball through. So I think coaching, encouraging fellas to make that kick pass is a key thing, and that's easy to say. Someone kicks it away and gives it straight to the sweeper and it looks silly, but there are times when it opens up and fellas just aren't looking for that kick pass, and I think hopefully it's on its way back, John, because clearly football's evolving again and it's just not as super defensive as it was, and I think these gaps will appear again, and kick passes will come back. It's certainly, we've gone through an era of hand passing and hopefully kick passing's coming back.
Brilliant. Fitzy then, your three half forwards.
You can't leave out Kieran Hardy or Ryan Hill. Ryan Hill in a superb game against Enrique, and again they're in the semi-final. And Kieran Hardy he's one of those players every team would want, because from the word go to the end of the game he's involved. Can't leave them two out. I would maybe opt against Shane McConnell, because he did get sent off the end. Maybe go for Shea Byrne instead. The other, I know the two Shays, but Shea Byrne gets another. But mention too to Philip Doran, who I think Philip Doran is kind of one of those unheralded players for Shaw, who's really come into the team and he performs his role well. But I would go Harney, Helen, and Shea Byrne.
Good stuff. All right, Marty. Then your 3 full forwards.
Yes, well, can't go past Ray O'Hare in there, full forward. Great target man. Bit of the ilk of Ronan Beattie. Inside, he's such a target man for Saul. A handful for anyone. James Mahoney, I thought, done very well for Saul as well in that game. And I say, I'm not putting you under pressure by going all Saul, man. Like, so I'm not. But after that, Lorcan Harney did do a lot of damage, come out about and foraged and picked up ball. To me, the Saul full forward line was lethal.
Doran, your 3 full forwards.
I'm going to give you and Ronan more credit here. Like, to be fair, like you thought, like Cahill Arnold, that's your like. He didn't play last week because I thought it was a masterstroke again putting him and Ray O'Hare in. And I know he was in and out, but it was just like, is that like, I think it was 3-3 came after them, or 3-3 came after them. I think we just put the ball inside to them. And like, to be fair, I know I was actually sitting beside a man, and I said, Cahill Arnold starting, would you start him? And I don't know if I thought like it was a bold move, but it was a bold and brave move, and it paid off superbly for you. So like Cahill Arnold and Ray O'Hare, and I had to put Conor McGregor in simply because the first half I felt he was only man them had looked like scoring, and every time they got the ball they looked for him. He won some, but there were 4 or 5 surrounded by him. I think he's a wonderful player. I thought the first half he was leading them's real threat. And be fair to yourself and Ronan, at half time you've seen it and went, right, we're going to completely nullify him. So Pearce was actually playing well out the field, but you just say, look, we're going to sacrifice Pearce because if we stop him, we'll stop it. Come back to O'Hare. I seen him last year this year again. We're down under 20s again, Donegal. It was a real wet day, but for such a big man, his skill level is superb. And I've seen him go back to that league game with Castlewell. He was marking Barry Travers, and Barry is no slouch. Barry Travers was marked the Donald O'Hare's, the Barry O'Higgins and down, and like he gave Barry Travers a torrid time. Like Cahill Arnold's a fella, the years involved under 21s, he was actually there as a goalkeeper. But I'd like to be fair, I thought it was a bold and brave move, and it was a brilliant move because you won the game, and I think it 3-3 came out of it. So look, you can't argue with that.
No,
Biggie, you're getting a lot of credit here for like master.
Hold on a second. I'm one of the gopher. Ronan McCartan's the boss. I'm one of the gopher.
You're the comb collector, yeah.
Yeah. No, but look, I suppose Hollow, like Conor McGregor, what a footballer. As Dorney says, like we were going in that game thinking that man is down quality written all over him. Like just what a player.
But and you know you look, yeah, and this is Dorney's challenge, right? Because people would be a bit. No, but the people would be a bit dismissive of players playing in lower leagues, right? You know, and you look through the quality that there is in various leagues, and you got to make that decision around, has that fella got enough quality to bring him to a county panel, or to see him flourish in a scenario where maybe with better players around him, he moves again even further up the ranks. You just got to look at, would that person slot into a Kilcoo team? Would that person slot into a Burn team? You know, and I think there's a stack of fellas like Conor McGregor that could easily just happen to be from a parish. You know, there's a transfer window that you get plenty of bargain buys in some of the lower divisions that you would easily slot into Division 1 teams comfortably, and that's the challenge for a county management team, right? Because you can look at a Warren Point Kilcoo game and think, well, most of your county panels should come from your top 4 or 5 clubs in Division 1, but I think history has shown that's not always the case, right?
No, Tony, definitely like that intermediate level as well. There's some serious footballers in it, like, and as Shane says, it's up to you now to I suppose see if they can fit in the down setup.
I think I said last week, the intermediate championship this year has been superb. The standard, and I was actually saying that see the Sauls, the late, and I'm gonna like I've actually Saul, the Leitnams, the Drumgas, the Shamrocks, especially Saul and Shamrocks, Leitnam. I do believe them three teams could beat teams in Division One, and people say, well, how could you come up with that? I don't think there's a massive look. If you take the Cuckoos, the Borden, maybe the Point and Clonduff, them four, I do think Saul, and I mentioned Shamrocks, and as I thought anytime I've seen Shamrocks, and to be fair, it was actually one of the games of the year, was that game again, using them in Newcastle, because the game just 5 minutes Shamrocks, first 10 minutes Saul was winning this easy, next thing, so it was 10 minutes in the second half, there's only one winner, Shamrocks. I actually think the Intermediate Championship has been so good this year, and I go back, like there's the Sauls and Shamrocks, Leighton, them team could beat teams in Division 1, no doubt, and you're just, as a push, I said, like Saul, I remember him, it just happened to Eddie Harney after the game on Saturday, and it just brought me, I remember Eddie Harney telling me one night after Down in 2010, the good work they were doing at underage of the series, on the 14 team coming through, they had a good under 16 team coming through, and they put massive emphasis on their coaching. And look, it's this team now, and to be fair, you were sitting on Saturday, just when I was talking to Eddie, and you went, you're actually delighted for the likes of Eddie Harney's, other world. I know there's more of them in the Saul club, but Eddie's only boy I would have knew in Saul, and just way back, this is 2010, 10 years ago, and Eddie Harney had a plan in place. And look, to be fair, it's actually great now to see, now you just have to go and finish the job. And plus, there has been a bit of tragedy, in every club, but there has been a wee bit of tragedy in Saul this year. He's lost two very, very important members. And look, they're maybe putting your Saul hat on. You'd hope you'd go and finish the job for that. But I was looking at Eddie Harney on Saturday, and he was talking to me. He's telling me, you better not beg us up. You better not beg us up. But Eddie was actually talking to me. I went into a wee, because I thought back one night outside Newry in 2010, you told me the serious work you were doing in Saul, and Saul would have a really good outfit. But it's gone back to Shane, the quality in the intermediate has been superior. Like, and I'll be honest, Conor McCriggett as a player, I watched him again in the Kingdom, and every time he got the ball, you were just so excited. He just has a wee bit of class. I remember watching him 2 years ago for down on the 20s again, Derry and Clonus, and just thinking, he is something. You just know right away there's something special. Like, I know he had a lot of problems with injuries, and it was good. But then it was actually a great move to see Pearce come back, because you seen a county defender on him. And it was just like Pearce, Larry, John, though, is a serious athlete. But it was just like like the standard in intermediate has been so high, and it's been a great championship.
Good stuff. Did Conor McCriggett make the team, Fitzy, this week?
You couldn't leave him out. Absolutely brilliant. And then in there as well, again, you couldn't leave Rory O'Hare out. And I'm going to go to James Mahoney from Saul. There's a player there who maybe not the goal scoring exploits and point scoring exploits of the other boys around him, but watch him, especially in this final and what he done in the semi-final. He gets through a hell of a lot of work, and he's a smart player. So I'll go him, Conor McCriggett, and Rory O'Hare. Good
stuff. Okay, I'll wait till after the final to go through everything with this, but we'll get the predictions now.
Not so many Saul players made that team, just out of curiosity.
How many?
There's 4 or 5 Drumgoff ones in there. Fitzy, your predictions then, and how you see the match.
He's moving that segment on quickly there, isn't he? Like,
there's the editing function in this too, you know. Yes, the final, look, brilliant to see Sondrum Gath in it. They've gone through the front door, they've won all their games to get there. They've lit up this championship, Saul with their goal scoring exploits, and from Gath just with their attack and play. I've questioned Saul's championship tradition, which they, they'll admit themselves, they've never really had a championship tradition. They go back to '64 till their last win in a men's championship at senior level. So they've put that to bed. It'll be a ding-dong battle here. You'd imagine two teams will not really change tack. They'll keep going attacking. It's going to be one of these shootouts again. Who scores the most? And maybe, just maybe, Saul, with that goal-scoring record they've got throughout this championship, to nail Drumgaff. I do not think there'll be much in this. This could be a real high-scoring, open, exciting game with Saul just edging it.
Good stuff. All right, Doran.
I'm going to go with Mark too. Look, I think Park Esker, big wide open spaces. Again, I think it'll be a high scoring game because both teams like to go on the front foot. But I just think Saul, if you're being really cold about it and you go through the players, I think Saul have just the better footballers. I do think when you look at the Pierce Lowrys and the Kieran Hardys, and I just think Saul will have a wee bit too much of them Gaff. But them Gaff will have up front. To be fair, last Saturday evening didn't sit in the wire because they are a fleet up front. They like to play fast football. The wire last Saturday didn't sit for that. But if you're giving them Gaff any chance, traditionally they have won. They do well in the championship finals. They've won a few. But I just think the way Saul's playing this year, they've been the most impressive team I've seen, and I think Saul will finish the job on Sunday. Sorry.
Marty, this is just all ammunition Big Jackie needs, and of course, like he's going to be rallying the troops, and especially with that red card as well. They've got a wee bit of a cause now to fight together and to avenge it, I suppose. 2013, I think, was the last time Drumgath actually won, and as Shane says, maybe tradition can play a big part in this.
Oh yeah, Jackie knows his stuff. He's been about the game a long time, and he knows what it takes to win championships. Shane McConville will be a loss to them, but they can use that as inspiration and bring the boys on. But I'll have to agree with the two boys before me and tip Saul to win this. It'll not be easy. It'll be a lot tighter than a few expect, but them gaps will be hard to break down. It'll not be a goal fest by any stretch of the imagination. If Saul gets through on goal, get the ball into the area, he'll be dangerous. But I just think Saul will edge it. With the quality, like Dorney says, the quality across the pitch through the 15, they just maybe have that added quality. Big wide open pitch. We talked about Packy earlier and the strengths he has. He has the strengths, ball winning strengths. Does he have the engine to get box to box at the Marshes? I can't see him keeping up with them young Saul players, to be honest with you. So I'll go for Saul in this one.
Full house, Figgy. Saul, given who you have beaten in the last two games, to me, that just, you must be on a crest of a wave, and it must be very hard to do this segment because you're worrying about adding fuel to the opposition, and I'm sure they'll be listening in. But who you've beaten to get to this point, just to me, marks you out as the standout team.
No, like as I said, whenever I was with Saul, and I always said I wouldn't shy away from it. Like if you're being tipped by someone, there must be a reason why. So it's not something to fear. Other pundits are tipping Drumgaff. So it's good. It's a good. I think it's just the two informed teams and two teams that deserve to be there. Tell you the truth. Seeing Drumgaff against Unraked and like as Tony says, the forwards are they're lethal, as well. So just looking forward to it and can't wait. The good thing is it's only been a week. Do you know what I mean? This championship's just been bang, bang, bang. So it's no need to think about it really. Just get on.
You've touched on something. Mark touched on it as well. Like in a way, any niggles, any knocks, it's just a struggle for a player to be ready to go the week after he's played, because it takes a couple of days to get that recovery, and really, you're not really doing any training, right? You're just recovering and thinking about the next day and getting ready again. But like, I just think an extra week for every team making a final gives them a chance to get prepared physically, to get their coaching teams sort of lined up in terms of giving them a wee bit more preparation time. I think that's fair for all teams that have made the final. But the beauty of this is that it is just a week. It's to use Patsy Russell's quote, they're coming thick and fast. It's like, and it's really enjoyable, and it has been a really enjoyable championship. Given we didn't think we were going to have any football, and then even Park TV has been a revelation because the quality of the production is top notch, and and that's gotten better over the championship, and it's given lots of people lots of access to football that they just wouldn't have seen because you wouldn't have got around to see games that. So exactly, it's probably been a really epic year for championship football in Down. I think hopefully we get three finals that match up to it.
Exactly, and it's great that they're all being streamed, but I suppose the fans are disappointed now because me and Patsy aren't going to head for the final. So I'm stepping aside and letting Patsy have that final.
Well, I got a text during the week, a WhatsApp message during the week, and somebody was playing Patsy Russell bingo. So if he says the flame herd, you have to drink. If he says into the night sky, you have to drink. There's a few classics in there, a few Patsyisms.
And if it hits the onion bag, you have to down the bottle.
Onion bag.
Boys, I suppose it's thanks very much for coming on. I suppose it's the big one now that Kilcoo carried off. Just ask for predictions on how you'll see the game going. Hollow, we'll start with yourself, and
look, a scenario where it has to. I mean, I think it was very disrespectful for the Irish to use to run a headline saying the final and all but name, and I think that'll be plastered over every WhatsApp group and every kitchen cupboard and wall in those carried off boys' houses. I think the week, despite what I've just said in terms of preparation, I think the week will help in that it'll not become too big and they'll dwell on it for too long, maybe in their own minds. I hope Cardiff go out and have a go. I think they've got lots of legs. I think Kilcoo, for all that we've said, are susceptible to strong, fast running right at the heart of their defence. And I think if Cardiff don't get caught up in we'll play a different way to try and match the way you might play and it becomes a bit of crab football, I don't think that'll suit Cardiff at all. So I'm hoping they're going to go out and literally, die with their boots on and just have a go. In saying all of that, it would be some fairy tale story to beat this Kilcoo team, given the experience they have, the pedigree they have, and all the things that we bigged them up earlier on. It's just such a novel turn. Cardiff are a huge club. Cardiff are an absolutely huge club, and this could set Cardiff up for the next 10 years. Cardiff might have 90 or 100 under 10s kicking about there, and they're all looking at these boys making a county final and becoming county players and stuff. So huge day out for the Cardiff club, but I hope it's not just a day out. And we were saying the same. You get there, like Marty said earlier, nobody gives a shit who you have to win a semi-final. It doesn't matter how you play, you just have to win the semi-final. It would be terrible for it to be a damp squib, and I'm a bit worried that it will be a damp squib because I think Kilcoo will just choke the life out of them, and then we'll pull away. And I hope I'm wrong in saying that, and I hope Cardiff have a go at them.
Good stuff, Marty.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm looking forward to a competitive game, and I hope it is competitive. I hope Cardiff can stay in touch. DJ Morgan's a good friend of mine, and I wish him well in the final, and Paddy and Cahill with him. Stay in touch, keep the game within hand's reach going into the last quarter, make it a spectacle for the crowd on Park TV and at the match. But I just think Kilcoo are experienced, know what it. Ian mentioned earlier right at the beginning of the show about the football IQ. They don't make unenforced errors. They don't make mistakes that other team makes. They don't try that silly pass inside that gets intercepted. They're methodical in their preparation. Just the way they go about it, I think they will have too much for Cardiff. But I wish Cardiff all the best, and I hope it's a competitive game.
Good stuff, Tony. I suppose matchups are going to be massive again, and who's going to go on Owen McCabe, who's going to go on for Kilcoo, like who's going to go on Daniel Guinness, who's going to go on James Guinness, who's going to go on Ronan Beatty, and then you've got Kilcoo, does John McGill man mark, does Michael Murph, what do you call him?
McGrath.
Yeah, McGrath. Does he man mark then one of the quicker players? So it's going to be an intriguing battle, that one.
Yeah, look, when you're looking at Kilcoo, if you're sitting at Kilcoo dressing Unite, right away, we have 3 Brannigans and they're going to go and take 3 of their best players out. So then we'll start the rest of that. It's carried off. You would just, as we said, Cardiff's improved. Every game they've got better and better. It's a given. When you think of this, Cardiff, the Daniel Guinnesses, the Owen McCabe's, the James Guinnesses, the John McGill's, these boys get the finals and win them. If that's like they don't. If you're giving them hope, they don't get beaten too many finals. They've won 3 minor or 3 under-21s. They've won a couple of Ulster. They're not like. There's one thing. Cardiff won't go in and think we're out here to make the numbers because I know from Tatlick these boys have won championships the whole way up. But if you're been really, really cold about it. As you say, like, I just think Kilcoo will win the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you open up, they'll destroy you. If they sit back, they'll pick you out. And if you come on them, they'll choke you down. They'll wear you down. I just think Kilcoo have that experience now. No matter what way they want to play it, they'll find a way of winning. I do, if I'm giving Carryduff some hope, I agree with Shane, the week will sit Carryduff. Only a week, yes, I know there are a few injuries, but they don't have any time to sit back and think about it. Like, they came out of the game last Sunday, they're in the training Tuesday or Thursday night with it and getting themselves ready. They've only 3 or 4 days. They haven't the big time to go and do press, because usually when you get the championship final, you have the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And press, and you have open nights, children want to come in the training and stuff. You can't do that this year. It's just simply get their job. Carryduff will use every wee bit of motivation. Like, nobody, probably even Carryduff people, are giving them no chance. Yeah. But the only chance I would give them is maybe, look, these boys do get the fight. They've no baggage of crew. Maybe the likes of Daniel Guinness, Owen McCabe and James. They're used to beating Kilcoo at minor level, under 16 level, that's under 21 level. But now it is a massive step up. Look, they're playing and the second best team in Ireland. And you're going in to face that. As Hollow says, look, I hope Carryduff have a rattle. I really do hope they have a rattle, because they are a serious running team. Pace, you can run, but I just think Kilcoo are just that far down the road again. I think Kilcoo will beat them just any way they want. If Carryduff open up, they'll hit you in the break. If Carryduff sit back and try, Kilcoo will just wait their opportunities. The PDs and these boys will just knock balls up. There's so many strings to their bows.
Yeah.
Like,
but I suppose with Kilcoo then, what hope can you give to Carryduff about the tactics? Do you think a change in tactics will help them, or how would you go about this?
Carryduff manager DJ Morgan has proven himself this year in terms of being tactically astute. Got that demolition job against Clonduff, the Query, changed tact and they learned from it, which was always going to be the case. But if you sit back, you're in dips here. If this is COVID year, there's been so many mad things happening this year in life, and we're lucky we have football. They've got themselves to the final. Probably they maybe didn't even expect it themselves, but they got to go for it, because if they sit back, they're going to get killed. They have to go for it. That has its risks too, but they need to be positive here. I was just thinking today, just 9 years ago, 2011, Dundrum beat Carryduff in the first round of the Intermediate Championship. And 9 years on, we're sitting in Division 4 and Carryduff are in the Senior Championship final, and it just shows you what can be achieved in that time. But I'm thinking here, Kilcoo will win this. I think they will win it. And they mightn't necessarily need to be at the top of their game. I generally think they can control what they do in this, control how they operate. Carryduff will make a fist of it for stages, but over the 60 minutes, Kilcoo will have enough, and they'll catch Carryduff. When Carryduff are really pushing forward, they'll catch them. And Mickey Moore will have them set up to really punish Carryduff, and Carryduff leave themselves open. So I'm going to go for Kilcoo. There will be little stages where Carryduff will have their say, but there's too much know-how with Kilcoo.
Good stuff, man. If I can book us in for next week, then I'm gonna go through our all-stars. I'll add in a couple of more all-star guests as well, just to see how they thought the championship went. But that'd be great if I can get us on next week. Then I'm gonna give out the prizes, and also the player of the Junior Championship, player of the Intermediate Championship, and player of the Senior Championship. And delighted to say that Player Fit have designed a jersey for me as well. So I'll be giving the players the jerseys as well. So
brilliant, very good.
That's great stuff. Thanks.
Just before you go, John,
yes,
it would be in a weekend of finals, it would be remiss of me. I wouldn't be allowed back into the club if I didn't mention tomorrow under 13s and under 11 and a halves competing in the East Down final. The under 11 and a halves are competing in the A League against the likes of Kilcoos and Carryduff and Breda and Bryansford, and they're playing the final against Patrick this Sunday, and the under 13s are playing against Leitrim in the final on Saturday, both at 12:30 in Drummond each day. So if I didn't mention that,
you just reminded me, Marty, because the Strabber ladies won the intermediate under Marty Keenan. So well done, ladies. Boys, I suppose next week we can start. We can talk about the playoff games as well. You know, that's not to be forgotten as well. Glen against Darcross.
Ross, yeah.
Intermediate. Fitzy, who's in it?
It's done and dusted. Bosco beat the Connacht, so the Connacht will be playing junior football next year. So that's Bosco's first win in the championship. The Connacht lost all 4 games, so Bosco's staying intermediate and the Connacht back in the junior.
So that's a big team back in the junior then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that as well next week. Lads, as always, thanks very much. Thanks for the pressure as well. Hopefully we can do the business on Sunday. But boys, thanks a million.
All the best, John.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.